So this episode actually comes by special request, and it's actually a sadder thing to talk about. Again, I'm no expert in anything, right? I mean, I'm an expert in some things, I guess, but I feel like there's certain situations, certain things that we know that we are capable of dealing with and handling and going through, and sometimes we just need someone to speak to us. We just need the advice or the guidance of a person that's outside of our own mind because we can't escape our own thoughts or we don't want to believe certain things. And like I said, you can always reach out to me on my website, mademoremotivated.com, which I created literally a place for people to share stuff. And this is a common question that I've gotten. And it's dealing with narcissists. And before we dive into this episode, before we do anything, I first need to dispel that word. Because, yes, are there people who are narcissists? Absolutely. That's a clinical term. You are diagnosed narcissist, but not everyone is a narcissist. Just because we've become so comfortable using that word doesn't mean that everyone falls under that category. Doesn't mean that every person that we encounter or deal with is that. Now, are there people who have these tendencies? Sure. Are there people who don't have any regard for our feelings or our emotions? Sure. Are there people who care more about themselves than anyone else? Absolutely. But we need to be very careful in how we unpack certain things. Why? Because we give some people too much credit. Like a person who's actually a narcissist, like if they're clinically diagnosed a narcissist, that's an excuse. I'm not saying it's a justified excuse. I'm not saying it's you deserve to be treated the way you're treated. You should deserve to go through what you've gone through. I'm saying that if you are giving them this out, you're saying that they're this. We're going to talk about this. Because there are some people who are actually narcissists, and there's some people that are just jerks. For a lot of us, we don't leave situations not because we don't know that it's bad, but it's because we're hoping for it to turn good. We keep hoping that they'll be different. We keep hoping that they'll change. We'll keep hoping that one day they'll look at us and say, man, you know what? You are worth making the effort. And that's what really makes it hard to leave. That's what makes it so hard to let go of everything, because you don't want to let go of that thought. You don't want to believe who they actually are. You refuse to believe that they're this person because the person that you have in your mind is so much better than this. The person you're hoping for, the person you're dreaming for, the person that you've been engulfed with, that person is so much better than what they're showing you they are. But the truth is that for most people, they can't change. So we have to. We have to stop allowing them to make it seem as if they're good. And with people who have narcissistic tendencies or people who are just flat out jerks, they tend to mimic growth. And what happens is that when you are about to leave, when you're finally about to step up for yourself and remove yourself from the situation, when you finally see that it's not worth staying there, they act as if they're getting better. They act as if they're going to treat you right. They act as if they're apologetic or remorseful. They'll put on this show just to make sure that they still have enough pull on you. And what happens mentally for us and emotionally inside of us is that when we see that, we want to believe it. Because we don't want to believe that we're wrong. We don't want to believe that this person that they're showing us that they are is bad. We don't want to believe that they're not who we made them out to be. So it keeps us in this yo-yo effect. Like we're ready to go and we're far enough, but they pull us back the moment they start acting different. I need you to understand that there is nothing in them that will change. You'll have moments of this growth, moments of this happiness with them, and eventually what they'll do is go back to that person they were. They want to keep you there. They're going to say the right words, they're going to do the right thing, and then they're going to go right back. Statistics show us, or psychological statistics at least, is that studies show that narcissistic personality traits are among the most stable over time. True personality change is rare without intensive long-term therapy. So if we are talking about a person who is actually narcissistic, right? Because we have people who have tendencies, we have people who are just mean people, but a person who's in this mindset will never change. Like unless they really go through therapy and they're actually going through these things and they live in this actual choice of change. And even then they can still revert. But unless they're actually going through these things, they won't actually change. So what happens is that for us, if we're remaining in these places, that we have the ability to walk away. I'm not saying that it's easy. Again, I'm not disqualifying the amount of work and effort it takes to finally stand up for yourself and leave. But I am saying is that if we keep hope in them changing, we're just lying to ourselves. Like we keep hoping that they'll be different on this day or on that day, and what's happening is that they're just doing enough for you to feel like there is that possibility of change. So what your emotions, what your brain is telling you, is what you're allowing yourself to be in, is that, oh well, maybe there's hope, and hope is good for so many other things, but hope is not good for a person who's showing you that they don't want it. We keep falling for who we invented them to be. We keep coming back to that. And again, this is heartbreaking because it's such a common conversation. It's like we deal with people, and even in situationships, right? In relationships that have never happened, which is a thing now, where we have this emotional relationship or emotional connection to a person that we've never fully created a committed relationship to. So it becomes so much harder for us to break out of that because we fell into that same rut. We need to understand that it's not your fault. And I think this is the hardest part for a lot of people. Like, they blame themselves. They sit through this and they say, well, why did I allow myself to be treated that way? Why did I allow myself to spend all these years giving effort and trying to be there? Why did I allow myself to not see who they really were? Why did I allow myself to live in hope? And I need you to know this, that it's not your fault, that you did nothing wrong. That you're not wrong for wanting something good. You're not wrong for hoping and seeing some potential in somebody, despite the fact that they're not showing you anything back. You're not wrong for wanting to love and be loved. That's not wrong. What is wrong is to continue to stay in a place where they clearly have shown you that they don't care, where they've shown you that it doesn't matter to them. Because what's wrong here, again, it's not the wants, it's not your desires, it's not your dreams, is the fact that you won't believe you. You won't believe the actual situation or circumstance. You'll continue to believe your dreams. You've put them so high on a pedestal that even when they show you that they're terrible to you and terrible for you, you'll continue to beg them to do what they should want to do. There are situations where people they've gone through so much heartache and so much pain with a person. They fought so much. There was so much trauma in that relationship that they've created this attachment to feeling that issue, to feeling that anger, to feeling that fight. So what happens is that when you actually move into anything else, if you move into anything else, you are looking for the toxicity of that trauma. You're looking to have this reward cycle, that you have these peaks of arguing and fighting, because this is how your brain works. Like, your brain it tells it's safe to fight here. It's safe to argue here. This is okay. This is good. This is giving us some type of response, because it equates fighting and arguing for care. Because this person has not shown you actual affection or love, that you take their anger as affection. There's a saying, right? There's a thin line between love and hate. That's actually a real thing. In your brain, the same parts of your brain that are activated when you're in love are also very similar to the parts of your brain that are activated when you're angry or hate, because they're so close in line with each other. But what's happening is that we condition our brains to think this is okay, this is normal. So you need a detox. You need to be able to take this out of your body. It reinforces this part of us. This is why people don't heal. There's so many reasons. I mean, we're talking about them now, right? But we're talking about the emotional, we'll talk about the spiritual, we'll talk about the relational connections that we have. But first of all, the physical, like the literal physical. Like, studies again show us that our connection to people physical, emotional connection can actually cause physical pain. Like, you will feel hurt, physical hurt. You even feel soreness sometimes, because of this relationship, because you need to detach from this particular thing. It's not that you're weak, it's just that you've reinforced something. So when we talk about this physical component, being able to disconnect completely, I know this is hard and I know this is a tough one, but that whole, it also became a trend, that whole the no contact thing, right? That just completely cut them out and don't respond, don't message, block, all those things, which is very, very hard for the first couple of weeks, even maybe months for some people. But there is power behind that, because now what we're doing is that we're reconditioning our brain. We're changing the cycle of how we see things or how we respond. There are things that we were used to doing. We create this new dichotomy with that, with ourselves, with the power struggle that we had before. You have to literally recondition your thoughts, recondition your mind. and know that it's okay to let go of these things. So just diving into those conversations that I've had with people, and I don't want to assume and presume that everyone has the same situation or the same mindset. So I'm just gonna be very blanket, over the top, and hopefully you find where you fit in that blanket if this relates to you, or maybe if it doesn't. But honestly, this relates to everybody, because it's not just romantic relationships. This happens with like friendships, platonic relationships. This happens with family members. There is a balance even between families that it seems narcissistic. There's actually a word that I learned recently on social media when I talked about narcissistic relationships and how they look, and how when you are dating a person who is in this time mindset, again, narcissistic is actual clinical term, so not everyone fits in this blanket, but maybe people have terms or tendencies that they fit into this. But that when you are first dating them, in the first couple of days and weeks, they do something called love bombing, where they oversaturate you with emotions and love and tell you all these things and all these pretty things. And what it turns out to be is that this is an influx in your brain. It's actually out of the book of Narcissist, where you are oversaturated with what you think is love. So your body now becomes used to it. It's like, wow, this is amazing. And then what they quickly do is that they pull the carpet. A couple days after that, they completely shut you out from this. And it creates now this dependency on them. You're dependent on their emails or their text messages or their comments or their DMs or their media. You're dependent so much on them that your brain causes you to almost have like withdrawals. There's a word or term called slow burn. That real love is patient. It takes time. It develops. It grows. It's not perfect, but it is present and persistent. And too many of us are rushing into that love bomb that we're losing sight of what's good. This is a tool that they use to keep you there. This is why when we dive into situationships or we have those issues, it's so easy to get wrapped up in them because they've over-inundated you with fake love. And it's impossible for us to fully know someone without actually spending time with them, without actually allowing ourselves to grow in that. So without actually allowing this life of ours with them to not just be imaginatory, but to be real. So when we go through this, and again, this is everyone, friendships, there are friendships that sprout out, and we see how present they are to us and how much they love us and how often they call us and all these important things that good friendships do, and then out of nowhere they just disappear. Now, again, there's obviously a staunch difference there because that's not a romantic partner. They don't owe you a daily conversation. They don't owe you any type of relationship in that terms. But there is this reality where any healthy relationships requires conversation. It requires you to be present to them. So for us to allow ourselves to just be fully loved in that, to be fully present to that, we need to be able to put people in the positions that they've put themselves. Like allow people to be where they want to be. If they've made it clear that they're only momentarily with us, cool. You don't have to be momentarily with them either. You don't have to give them that attention when they have to. But if you so desire, those friendships that are have gaps, right? Low maintenance relationships aren't bad things, but you have to allow people to be in the places that they desire to be. Not where you want them to be. Be clear about this, because we could want people to be with us every single day, but where do they desire to be? It's not enough for them to just be with us when we want them. And when we're able to unpack those things, we're able to really unpack where people stand with us. Because if we're mutual, right? If we both understand this. Now, let's be clear, because you could also be the toxic one here. You could be the one that's over pushing where people should be. Because understand, you can't force people to be different in your life. They will be where they need to be. And you have to learn to adapt and accept or reject that premise. You have to learn to be okay with that. Or again, rejection is perfectly fine. If you're not okay with it, be very clear. That's fine. You can be there, but I'm not going to be here either. In any relationship, romantic, friendship, family members, but we need to be able to also understand, are we the ones that are in the wrong? And that's a whole thing in itself. So looking at this reality that you're not wrong for wanting these things. You're not wrong for wanting to be loved and to be cared for. You're not wrong for just having a desire in your heart. What we do next is what defines whether we're wrong or not. Whether we continue to be in something that we know that's clearly not for us, or we wake up and just accept the truth. This is what changes everything. There is this unneeded thought that's happening very common in our culture too. Closure is a lie. Like, closure does not need to be a part of the relationship or the breakup or the end. It doesn't need to be a part of why, because most of us are not looking for closure. We're not looking for them to tell us what's wrong. We just want them to kind of turn back. We want them to look at the situation and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Or we're looking at them for them to come back into our lives. We're not looking for actual closure. You don't need closure. You don't need somebody to tell you that they were wrong. Let them be wrong on their own. You don't need for them to apologize to you, because at the end of the day, that apology won't mean anything. You don't need for them to come back into your life. Closure is this myth that if we tell them what they did wrong, that they'll sit there and realize it and come back. Or that we'll be able to win. We'll be able to make them feel bad for treating us the way they treated us, because they shouldn't have treated us that way. You don't need them to validate your emotions. Like, you don't need them to tell you that it's okay to feel bad. You don't need them to know that they were wrong. They know they're wrong. Whether they admit it or not, whether they're narcissistic or not, they're wrong. And that's okay. And this is, again, presuming and assuming that you were not in the wrong in this situation. But you don't need to go back to closure when you were already told the truth. Now, I do want to be clear, because there are instances where we are the wrong one. Like, I had a conversation with someone, and this person, she would label every ex that she dated as a narcissist. Like, every ex, like every single ex that they had, they would label them as a narcissist. And this just makes me think, it just jogs in my mind. Every single one of them. First of all, let's just take away the fact that narcissistic, again, a real narcissist is a clinical term, right? Like, actually diagnosed, right? We'll ignore that just for this instance. But every single one of them, like every ex you've ever dated is a narcissist. Not one of them is just a bad person, or not one of them is just not compatible with you. Why is it that every person that you've dated is a narcissist? And why is it that you're the only one that's a silver lining? So the connecting factor here. There's one of two things. One, either you have extremely bad taste, like you are attracted to toxicity, to instability. You're attracted to mental disorders, because that's what it is, or it's easier to label everyone else as a problem because you don't take accountability for yourself. I think that the healthiest thing we will ever do in any situation, every relationship, is be able to take accountability for the things that we did, because it's impossible that everyone was good. It's impossible for a relationship to fall apart without everyone having some part of it. Now, what I mean by that, again, I don't mean that you were evil and did incorrect things. What I mean by that is that there is a part of that relationship that we have to take on, because there is a relationship between two people, right? It's not one person carrying all the weight. And you might have gone the most and have done everything you could have done and gave every bit of effort, but there has to be something there where you didn't contribute in your portion. And some people would say, well, I did everything. I did all these things, and I showed up, and I was this and I was that. And it's very, very possible, very true, that it is a possibility that a person was just tired of it. They didn't want to be in the relationship, or has avoidant attachment personalities, or all these things. It's very, very possible. But the reality is that most cases, for most people, it's not like that. We have to be able to look at our flaws in that relationship. Why do I say this? Why am I saying you have to look at that? Because this is what you carry on to the next one. Like, if you know that you could have, communicated better, that you could have called more, that you could have shown up more, that you could have sat with them and understood their problems a little more instead of just telling them all of yours, then in this situation, that's what you pick up and grow with. But I want to be clear, you don't go back to it, especially if there is no need or no chance of it being healed or recovered. Because a lot of people want to heal the relationship when it's too late. And in some instances, that's just the case. You can only take something with you, not go back to it. So I mentioned that in that breath, because if we think that every person that we've dated or been around with is a narcissist, and again, this is like a personal check, right? Check your own heart. Is that true, or am I just trying to use that as a scapegoat? Am I running away from something by labeling them as bad and not labeling me as needing to grow? Not everyone is a narcissist. Not everyone is actually even clinically claimed that. But the only thing that we'll ever be able to change is not them, is ourselves. And this mountain of dealing with these people can only come to our good when we know what part we play in it. There's a phrase, it's called emotional purgatory. And this is what I meant when I said, you're waiting for them to admit that they're wrong. Like you're waiting for them to let you off the hook from how you feel or what you want to know. Because you're waiting for them to take accountability. The problem is that people who are wrong rarely ever take accountability. Like people who are not good to you rarely ever will sit back and say, man, you're right. I'm sorry. Good people will. Good people who are remorseful for how they feel and know that they could have done something better or changed something, they'll look at you and say, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I treated you this way. I'm sorry we went through this. Even if it's not to reclaim you or to come back to you, those people will take accountability. But more often than not, we're looking for a person that is not accountable to become accountable. This emotional purgatory, this limbo of just being stuck in something, waiting for someone to be something they're not, is going to kill you emotionally. It's going to drive you to a point where you want nothing else but that thing to change. And I need you to understand that you don't need validation from their story. Like you don't need your version of the story to match up with theirs. It's okay for you to see this thing completely different than they do. It's okay for you to completely detach from them. But at some point, if we don't actually make any moves, we'll continue to wait for them to be different. So one thing that often happens when we're dealing with these people, when we're dealing with people that we need to get away from, when we're dealing with these people that we need to change ourselves from, is that they're very, very, very good at distorting what seems real. Like that, again, another phrase that's thrown around so loosely, it's gaslighting. But it's true. It is a real phrase. It does happen. I do think that not everything is gaslighting. Some people don't want to be accountable for themselves and they say, you're gaslighting me. No, you're just doing poor things and picking poor decisions. We need to be able to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And people who do fit this build, who fit this type of thing, will gaslight you into thinking that your emotions are wrong or invalid just because you have them. They're not wrong or invalid. And being able to really distinguish and look at this is this real, or am I just not being accountable? Because that's the difference, right? You should be accountable for how you act and what you do, but you should not take on things that are not yours to take. You should not have to sit here and feel like you're the worst person ever because somebody just made you feel bad. It's okay to call them out on their nonsense. It's okay to not need to respond to what they're saying about you or trying to make you feel just because they want to win. But be clear that you are accountable for anything you have done, but then not take on the weight of what they've said to you, especially in a situation where you're fighting with somebody. There is rarely a situation where you're fighting with somebody where they're going to say things that are valid. Typically, it's just to hurt you. Typically, it's just to get under your skin. Typically, it's to make you feel bad. And that's where we need to cut the line. That's where we need to just make sure that we're not attached to these people at all and not attached to their words at all and not allow them to continue to pull us there. They will try to invalidate your emotions because by invalidating your emotions, they validate their actions. They will try to make you feel like you are crazy because by making you feel like you're crazy, they will make themselves feel like they're better. They're gaslighting you into these things. And again, not using that word loosely, not throwing it around. Accountability is important, but there are people that will make you feel as if what you're feeling and saying is wrong just because they want to win. Just because they would rather belittle you than step up to anything else. They would rather make you feel like you're garbage and nothing than it is to actually be good. We need to learn that these people don't actually have value in our lives, that their words should not change where we are. But if we continue to go back to that and say, well, how you make me feel or what you are, what you do, that's who I want to be around. You'll continue to give into this cycle that will continue to hurt you and efforts to keep them. There's no one in this world. Life is way too short. There's no one in this world that is worth hurting yourself so that they will stay. No one that loves you, genuinely loves you, wants to see you hurt. The only ones that want to see you hurt are the people that take advantage of you. So I mentioned before this no contact thing. And this is hard, but it's probably the most powerful thing you'll ever do. No contact is not punishment. It's protection. It's keeping yourself enough at a distance that you allow yourself the freedom to not revert to things. And this is hard because, again, it's so easy with the world we live in. We're so connected. There's so many ways and avenues and memories and things that flourish back. But as these memories come, as these thoughts and processes come through, I want you to just sit back and just think about the person. Did they treat you right? Did they make you feel loved and cared for? Do you actually feel valued and seen? Or are you just connected to something of a moment? I'm not talking about like it overall, like and just like you're connected to a moment of happiness. We tend to do this. We tend to bear when we're trying to convince ourselves otherwise, right? When we're not actually doing the right thing for ourselves. We tend to convince ourselves that they were not always bad. And your brain, your memory sucks. Like your memory doesn't actually remember the fullness of things. It remembers the memory of a memory. So we'll highlight, especially when we're trying to block these emotions, we'll highlight the good moments and we'll make those things magnified. And that overshadows so much more. But just think about it this way. We'll say it in this very simple way. Is it good for a person to be good to you 4 times, but bad to you 40? Like, is it good that they were good here and there and they made you feel happy here and there and they said all the right things all the way through, but they made you feel terrible in all these other situations? They made you feel less valued or less seen or less loved. But you know what? They were really good in those few moments. I think when we remember that, when we use that becomes fuel. It becomes a catalyst. And I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm never one for affirming this kind of thought pattern, right? It's negative affirmation for this thing, or negative reinforcement rather. But sometimes when we're this deep, we need those things. We need to know that we're not giving these people access anymore. That they don't have power over us because we're not responding, we're not connecting, we're not engaging. We're letting this toxic thing die. The only way you heal is by getting out of the toxic pond. Like if you, the only way you're going to dry from this puddle, this pond, is by getting out of it. And if you keep going back into it, you will never dry. You'll dry less and less and less each time because you're more used to it going back quicker. And healing, I'm not saying it's quick because healing isn't linear. So there are days that you're going to feel like none of that even mattered. You'll think, oh, I was so dumb. How did I fall into it? But there will be days where you are severely depressed or severely sad or missing it. Why? Because it's not linear. It doesn't just all magically go away. Time is really the only friend you have. And eventually it doesn't go away, but it becomes less. And it becomes less potent. And you desire to speak to them less. And you desire to reach out less. And you desire to put yourself through it less. And you heal from that. And maybe for some situations, the longevity that you were in it hurts. So it takes more time for you to heal. But this is the reality. This is the truth that we have to deal with. That the only way we heal is by not going back into the thing that killed us. It's by not going back into the pond of the thing that hurt us. You need to heal because you deserve to heal. And you deserve to trust you again. The biggest things that we fail with is that we turn our own trust and our own judgment, and we begin to lack in that. We begin to criticize what we do and what we believe because we've allowed ourselves to be in these situations. It's okay to go through these things and know that you're human, that you're desiring goodness and love and peace, and you gave it to the wrong person.